Mitch Huddleston served in the 9th Air Force during World War II. He fought in 5 major battles in England, France, and Germany.
Thank you for coming and participating.
My pleasure.
You may decline to answer any questions you are not comfortable with. And if at any point you want us to stop recording, just let us know.
Okay.
During World War II, what branch of service did you serve in?
9th Air Force.
What was your rank?
I started out private and wound up as staff sergeant
Where did you serve?
in Europe.
Where in Europe did you serve?
Well, we shipped out of New York, went to Scotland. From there, we went down to the southern part of England to the town Leamington, and that was right behind the Isle of Wight, which the invasion left out in our area. And I went into France on D3, the 9th of June. D3 was D-Day, and I went in 3 days later. You have to excuse my throat. I served right on through France and into Germany. When the war ended, I was in Germany. I was over there for 1 month short of 3 years. We supported Patton all the time I was over there.
All right. Why did you pick the service branch you joined?
I was actually put into that. I would love to have been a fighter pilot, but I wore glasses, and you had to have 20/20 vision without glasses. So they appointed me to, they sent me to sheet metal school so I could repair the aircraft.
All right. Where did you do your basic training, and what do you remember most about it?
Basic training was in Miami Beach. My home was in Miami, and I was fortunate to be sent back there. And I could get weekends off to go see my wife over in Miami.
When you served in World War II, where did you go after basic training?
Basic training. After that, I went to Chinook Field, just south of Chicago. And they taught us several things there. And then we were shipped back down to Florida at Orlando. And I joined up with my 81st Fighter Squadron there before we shipped overseas. And I went from Orlando, Florida. Our outfit went up to New York, and they put us on the Morro Castle. It was a sister ship to Sterling Castle, which had already been sunk by the Germans. And we started out across the North Atlantic. If I'm going too far ahead of you, let me know.
It's fine.
So I can tell the whole story. We had one U.S. destroyer to protect our convoy. And we had one German U-boat that was stalking us all the way across. But our destroyer sank the U-boat. But that North Atlantic, we had waves as high as our boat was long. And it was a terrific trip across that North Atlantic. And we landed in Glasgow, Scotland. That's where we docked.
What do you remember most about arriving in France?
Oh, in France?
France, yes.
Well, after we hit the beach, we looked up. I drove a clay track into the down in the water. We went over on a landing craft, and I drove what they call a clay track, something like a tank, down into the water, which is about 8 foot deep. And another boy and I brought the cleat track up on shore, and we looked up. We could see these German pillboxes up there, and they were shooting with their machine guns, shooting at us. And we managed to survive that. And we went through a little town. Our first little town was Sault Ste. Marie. It was right on the beach, behind the beach at Normandy. And we loaded up on trucks there, and we went to St. Lo, which was down near the Cherbourg Peninsula. And about a week later, Patton was bogged down there, and he couldn't get out. So he called on the 9th Air Force and the 8th Air Force, which was stationed in England. And they all came over and bombed this little town of St. Lo. And we flattened it down to nothing but concrete on the ground. And after that, Patton was able to get out and move on. And now, if you want to ask anything else, or I'll continue with my story, either one.
All right, you can continue.
Patton broke out of St. Lo, and he was heading towards Paris. And they sent us south down to Lyons, France. And our aircraft went down and supported the boys coming up from Italy to help them out. And after we got them going pretty good, we came back to Lyons and joined up with Patton. And we was on our way to Paris. And we took over Orly Air Base, which still is one of the main air bases in Paris. And we was there a couple of weeks, and they loaded us up and sent us to Nancy, France, which was just behind the border between France and Germany. And we spent the whole winter at Nancy, France. And then Patton decided to go on across the Siegfried Line into Germany. And the Battle of the Bulge happened about that time. So our planes went up and helped the boys at the Battle of the Bulge. And we took over an air base in Germany. It was a German air base, and that was where the war ended there. And one of my main experiences, if you want to hear about it, one day they came to me and asked me if I would go out and repair one aircraft that they wanted for a mission the next day. And I told them I would be happy to do it. And they drove me out to where this plane was. They handed me an extension cord with a light bulb on the end of it. And it was hooked up to a generator. So I proceeded to repair this aircraft. And I got it all ready to go for the next morning. And here come a German aircraft with all of its gun, all 4 machine guns shooting. And I had the only light in the whole area in my hand, and he was shooting at me. So I grabbed my rifle, and you don't shoot right at a German plane if you expect to hit him, because he'd be gone before you could ever turn around. But what you do, you line up you see where he's coming, and you shoot up in his where he's coming to, and he's going to run into your bullets. So I filled the air full of bullets, and the next morning they came to where I was over at the tent, and the camp told me that a German aircraft had been shot down the night before. And I knew I was the only one shooting back that night. And I do know that I shot him down. It was unofficial, but I did it. And when we landed, go back to when we landed in Scotland, we had one man as a welcoming committee to come out. And what he told us to line up, boys, I want to tell you one thing. I want you to remember it as long as you're over here. You got to learn to kill or be killed. And I found that out that night, that the German aircraft came after me, and I got him before he got me. So that was in my memories.
Were you ever a prisoner of war?
No, I was not.
Were you awarded any medals or citations?
Yes, presidential citation with 1 oak leaf clover, which means 2 presidential citations, and I was in 5 major battles, and I've got a medal for each one. And I got of course, I got the Good Conduct Medal, and I got the Victory in Europe Medal, and I think that was all.
Where all did you travel while you were in the service?
While I was in the service? Well, here in the States, I traveled to Orlando, Cross City, Florida, which was over on the West Coast, and of course travel overseas in the boat. And you want me to tell you where all I went in Europe?
Yes, please.
England was the first country, and then from England to France, from France into Germany, and back to Le Havre port in France. And the Queen Mary was docked there. They put us on the Queen Mary to come back to the States. And it only took five days to come back across the ocean. And it had taken us 2 weeks to go over in this little English freighter that I went over in. And coming back home, went to New York, and I got a 2-week furlough. And I was able to go back to Miami, where my wife was. And we were supposed to be on our way to the Pacific, but they dropped the two A-bombs while I was on vacation. And all I had to do was go back to Camp Blanding at Jacksonville, Florida, and get discharged.
Could you tell me about something that you or someone you knew did for good luck?
For good luck?
Yes.
Well, all my good luck, I guess God took care of me. That's the way I feel about it.
Would you tell me about any particularly humorous or unusual events that happened?
Humorous events?
Yes.
Well, the Germans used to come over and strafing us while we was in our different places, and a lot of the boys, I did nothing but grab my gun and go out and shoot back. And most of the boys, they thought I was crazy. And they kept hollering at me to go jump in the foxhole. But I wouldn't do it. I just took my gun and went back shooting back in.
Did you keep a personal diary?
No, I did not.
What do you recall about the day your service ended?
About what?
About the day your service ended.
Oh, when I got out, discharged, actually discharged. Well, I was happy, very happy, because I knew I was on the way back home.
Where were you when you got discharged?
Camp Blanding, just out of Jacksonville, Florida.
Tell me about your close friendships while in service.
Closest friendship? I guess one boy, he was from Cleveland, Ohio, and when we went into France, he went before I did on one day we moved, and he got over where we was going, and he dug a great big, not as big as this room, but he dug a bomb shelter and wanted me to stay in the bomb shelter with him. And I told him no, because I didn't want the Germans to drop a bomb and cave our bomb shelter in. So I refused that. I stayed up on the top of the ground.
Did your military experience influence your thinking about the war or about the military in general?
No, I was proud to have served. Today I would, if I had anything to do about it, I would bring the troops back to protect our country. And rather than go over to Iraq and Afghanistan to help those people, I would keep every one of our young men stationed around the perimeter of the United States to protect us. I think that's more important than what Bushy boys do.
How did your service and experiences affect your life?
Well, I think it made a better man out of me. I learned to appreciate life itself. My first wife, after I got back, we moved up here to Tennessee. She got Alzheimer's, and she lasted about 3 years, and she passed away. Since then, I've remarried, and I'm very, very happy. I was lucky to get a wonderful lady to be married to now. And I'm very happy. I'm happy to be up here in Tennessee because my daughter's up here.
Well, thank you for sharing your stories, and thank you for your service to our country.
Well, I was happy to do it, young man. I'm happy to turn this world over to young men like you. I know it'll be in good hands.
Thank you.